What's up, you guys? Steven with Magic Meadow Money. For years, people have complained about fetch lands being too expensive and have demanded reprints. Well, Wizards most certainly listened, and they cashed in on that secondary market value, and they reprinted fetch lands a lot. We got them in Modern Masters, we got them in Secret Lairs, we got them in Modern Horizons 2. The question is, are fetch lands worth buying? Now, the power level of fetch lands, over 9,000. They're extremely strong. They're the best fixing with dual land. They're incredibly flexible. They can also grab basic lands if you don't know how to shock yourself or you don't have original dual lands. They're powerful for the graveyard synergies of Delve and Escape. They're also a card type for like Delirium and Tarmogoyf. So that we know that the demand is there. They're extremely powerful. That's why people have been wanted them reprinted for so long. They're also legal in Modern and EDH, the two most popular formats in Magic. So the question isn't would you benefit by owning them, but rather what price are you willing to pay to own them? There are two main reasons to buy and own fetch lands. For your own collection, for you to look at and enjoy or to play with, or if you want to buy them in hopes that they later go up in value. Now you could call this investing or speculating or gambling, depending on how rigorous your definition is of investing. But either way, depending on which reason you want them, there are two different questions you need to ask yourself. When it comes to buying them for simply your own collection, whether that's to play with or to hang up on your wall, put in shadow boxes, things like that, the question is not, have we hit the bottom, right? Is this the lowest price ever? Because we have seen record low prices with some of these fetch lands. All the enemy fetch lands are crazy cheap right now compared to what they've been in history. The question to ask yourself isn't, have we hit the bottom? It's what price is worth it to you as an individual. If you're liking this video and you like fetch lands, make sure to hit subscribe and join the Wolfpack. As mentioned, the enemy fetch lands are at record lows. You have Marsh Flats and Arid Mesa around $16, $17. Then you have Verdant Catacombs at $25, and then the more expensive blue ones of Misty Rainforest and Scalding Tarns around $30, $33, depending on the version of them. So these are record low prices, but Modern Horizons 2 is still in print. There are thousands and thousands of boxes yet to be opened. So is the price going to go up or down depending on how the market absorbs these prices? We don't know. So maybe they go down a little bit, and maybe you buy Misties right now because you need them and want them at 27, 30 bucks. Maybe they go down to $25. Is that going to be a bad thing? It doesn't matter. There's no way to predict this stuff. So you have to ask yourself, am I willing to buy them at their current price? Is that a good price for me and my situation? So if you're looking to buy enemy fetch lands and the price looks good to you, buy them and then forget. Stop shopping. Stop looking at the price every few weeks and thinking, oh, I lost out on a couple dollars. You're just going to torture yourself doing that. If the price looks good for you and your situation, buy them and forget. All the allied fetches over here, now these, they're up. They're 2 to 3x prices from the bottom prices they were at 5-6 years ago. That doesn't mean it's a bad price. It just means they're more expensive than they've been in the past, and maybe they're up for a reprint within the next 12 months. Who knows? But 12 months is a lot of Magic you could be playing with these fetch lands if you want them and if they're good for your collection. So if you like them and you value them at the current price, then great. That's not necessarily a bad thing that they're up from the very bottom. That doesn't mean you're making a bad purchase. It just means you are buying them at a price you value them at. Okay, now turning to the darker reason for people wanting to buy these, to hoard them all and to shove them in a dark, deep box and to never let them see the light of day in hopes that they one day go up in price and you can sell them for a profit. So if you're buying them with the intention to collect or hoard them and maybe invest or speculate on them, the question you have to ask yourself is not where have prices been in the past, but where do you think they'll go relative to where they are now? And the reality is nobody knows that. That is an absolute impossible question to answer. Anyone who's selling you that is selling snake oil, and they're scamming. No one knows where the prices will go. You can have opinions and you can have guesses, but the reality is there are just too many variables to predict. It's just impossible. Now, that doesn't mean you can't buy them and hope that they go up, but you just have to recognize the extreme risk. There's a reason I use the word gambling, right, instead of speculating or investing. It's essentially a gamble. So if you decide to do this, it is prudent to do this with money that you can lose, right? This can't be money that you need in the near future or essentially ever, right? It can be money that you can afford to lose and not have it be a detriment to your lifestyle. This can't be your house down payment in 5 years, or money that you need for tuition in 2 years, or you need to buy a car in 6 months, and you're saying, hey, I'm going to buy these fetch lands now, and I'm going to spend the $1,000 I have on fetch lands and hope that in 6 to 12 months I can sell them for $2,000 and buy myself a better car. If that's the situation, that's not the money that you should be, that's not the bucket of money you should be doing this with. Now, as we mentioned, it's very easy to look at these fetch lands, these ally fetch lands, and say, hey, these are up 2 to 3x from the bottom, right? And enemy fetch lands are now at the bottom. So people are saying, don't buy them now unless you need them because they're at record lows, but you're supposed to buy low and sell high, so I should buy them now. Maybe they will go up. It's easy to kind of see that and paint the same picture and write that story, but that's just speculation. There is absolutely no way to say, hey, enemy fetch lands are at a really low price, and judging by the history of them and their current price and where they could go, they could 3x too. Maybe, and there's a good chance that happens. There's also a good chance they sit flat for years and they don't do anything. Let's look at polluted delta, for example, and see how tempting it is to paint ourselves this picture of the enemy fetch lands tripling in price soon, right? And side note, this polluted delta is signed by Reed Duke. I got matched up against him on day 2 of a tournament, a Star City Games tournament years ago in Las Vegas. That's where this playmat comes from as well. And so after he handily beat me, he signed my fetch land. He was really great guy, really nice to meet in person. We talked about football in New York. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, it's really easy to look at some of the price history and say, hey, look, these things have gone up 50, 60% in less than a year. Right? This thing skyrocketed, and our enemy fetch land's going to do the same over here. And, well, if you change the picture and you look at it and you say, well, hey, in 2.5 years, they've doubled. That also looks great. Like opening up my time horizon, looking farther back in the past, 2.5 years to double your money, that's an amazing return, right? Who's not going to be stoked about that? And you could even say, hey, they tripled in 6 years, right? And that's fantastic. Sure, it's not as good as doubling in 2.5 years, but it's close, and that's fantastic. They tripled in 6 years. That's amazing. Well, look at how long this stayed relatively flat. If you change the time horizon of this pricing, the story keeps changing. And this is not even a long time. This is only 6 years. So the fact that you see it go flat for a while, it spikes and goes down, and it's kind of volatile, but then as you zoom out, it starts to really look really flat. Well, if you need your investment to work for you, this is just not the category for you. This is way too risky, and the returns look awesome. Yeah, they're appealing, but they are risky, and that might not happen. In 3 years, they're just flat. They don't do anything. Or let's say, hey, change the picture again. Let's say you bought them in the fall of 15. You say, hey, they're about back to the price they were, before they got reprinted in Khans of Tarkir. So this is where I feel confident buying in at them. Or you just got into Magic, so you started to buy into them. Look what they did over the next year. They plummeted 40%. They went from $25 to $15. That year, they just plummeted. And if you have such a short time horizon and you're trying to do this on too short of a time horizon, you're trying to time the market, and it's just never gonna happen. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but transaction costs, it's just too much, and it's too risky, and people panic sell, and then you lock in your losses. It's just something you can't do. So using polluted delta as an example, I hope you realize how complicated and convoluted the story can be that we tell ourselves. And basically, you're going to be biased, and you're going to tell yourself whichever story fits your motivation. And so if you're desperate and you're trying to double or triple your money in the short term, I just can't get behind that. What do I know? I'm not some fiduciary. This is just a guy rambling on the internet. So you could do whatever you want. It's just not something I'm going to do. Now let's compare this to the idea of investing in like the S&P 500 or a blended mutual funds of stocks and bonds. I mean, that's not cool. That's not sexy. That's not awesome. Look at these fetch lands. Look how cool it would be to say, hey, I own 100 fetch lands. I don't know, I have how many here, roughly 40. You can see I have extras of some, and I'm missing some others. I don't have Scalding Tarns or all my Misties or Mesas, but whatever. There's roughly 40 here. Well, imagine having like 200 fetch lands. That's so cool. That's so much cooler than just saying I have some S&P 500 mutual funds. Woohoo, right? But when it comes to investing, emotions are really dangerous. And if you're doing any of this for ego or for social prowess or for the emotional highs, that's dangerous stuff. That's a really dangerous formula when it comes to investing. Now, if you are in a good position financially, and that can be defined very differently for different people, but you're not scraping by. You're not hoping that you can make rent next month, right? You're in a good position financially and you have some extra money and you want to put it in the fun or gamble category. Sure, you can buy Magic product, but consider, rather than singles, doing something like a Modern Horizons 2 collector box, right? I mean, how much safer, relatively speaking, is a sealed product than individual single? Because we know they're going to get reprinted. People love reprints, and different parts of the market want different demands, and Magic loves reprints because they can cash in on cards they've already designed and get value of them again. That's one reason why Modern Horizons 2 sold so well. So, instead of just buying singles, consider sealed product where you can get the gambler's premium and you can get the only experience of opening sealed product. Yes, they're going to reprint fetchlands, and the allied fetchlands will get reprinted, I'm sure, at some point, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, no one knows. But the experience of opening Modern Horizons 2 collector boosters will never be reprinted, right? There'll be other and new flashier things and other things to open, but this won't be redone. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you liked this video, feel free to share it with a friend. If you're new here, hit subscribe, and we'll end with our meta lyrics of the day. This is our time, we won't back down, from the rising sun until the day is done.